Fresno, true crime, the best little city in the USA, but is it really? Fresno, in multiple years in a row, has been ranked the most corrupt city in the United States. And so today we're going to be a deep dive into Fresno, California, corruption and crime, and every aspect of that city. And the poor citizens there that are living an honest life are just getting disgusted with it. So we're going to do a deep dive with Ignacio Esteban, my co-host, and
Hey,
my
what's going
beautiful
on?
hello Ignacio, and my beautiful and brilliant fiance is a lifelong resident of Fresno. So there she goes.
Hey, Mary. Hey,
Hi.
nice to see you. How you doing,
Yeah.
man? I
So
never knew. I know we'll do a little true crime first, but I had no idea. I mean, I had some inkling, but not like this. How much corruption was going on with the police department, other factions of Fresno. Unbelievable. You think it's a nice little quiet city, but underneath, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. Shocking,
well,
shocking, shocking.
I'll tell you what. Let me introduce Mary real quick. So for my audience who knows her from, she's on two episodes of Inmate to Roommate with me, and she doesn't like to come in front of the camera much, but she's a brilliant young lady. She's a forensic accountant. She's a certified civilian fraud examiner, and she knows a racketeering case when she sees one. Okay, so Fresno, California, for my audience. Before we get into that, we're gonna do a couple of true crime stories here first that are
Yeah,
breaking news right now, and then we're gonna do
sure.
an entire episode on this massive endemic corruption in Fresno. So in Fresno, I will just say this: we have corruption with the police dating back to at least the 1800s, still
Hmm.
going on, infiltrated by gang members to this day. We have an accused murderer as chief of police who then became mayor, and he is alleged to have murdered
Alleged. Yeah.
somebody else in his department. This has been widely reported, and he happens to be running for mayor again. You can't make this stuff up. So we're
Second
gonna get
term.
into, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into Armenian organized crime, multiple motorcycle clubs and based out of Fresno, street gangs, also ties to the Italian mob, Las Vegas to Los Angeles and everywhere in between. We're also going to get
Fresno, man, it's a good city for ATF for good cases, man. A lot of guns, a lot of organized crime. It sounds like a place I would have enjoyed working. but
yeah,
but the key is you got to have the right prosecutors. If not, you're just spinning your wheels. If you don't have the right prosecutors, man, you can pick off MS-13. You can pick off the biker groups. You can pick off drug traffickers, who unfortunately some of them are also police officers. That's just a crazy town.
yep. And so we're also going to delve into other aspects of the corruption out there that involves police, corrupt attorneys, a corrupt stock brokerage firm. A
Yeah.
friend of ours, David Michael Reinhardt, who's incarcerated for a 53-year sentence for
Hmm.
shooting at a police robot when his family stole millions of dollars from him, and he went to the family home on a country club,
Hmm.
and they tried to illegally extract him. And this poor guy's been sitting in prison over 20 years now. We believe innocent, and really they had no grounds to go in after him that day.
Well,
But it
and
is what
you
it is.
interviewed him, right, Bill? You interviewed
Yep.
him?
That interview's coming up, and he comes up for parole next week. So our
Wow.
prayers and thoughts go out to David. And then we also have a police officer in Fresno who went to prison for dealing heroin. We have
Hmm.
infiltration of the police department and the sheriff's office by active gang members. This is a nightmare, and we've covered this in roundabout ways. And so let me introduce Mary again and Ignacio. And first of all, Mary, we're going to get into a couple of breaking true crime stories.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Let
Ignacio,
me.
what do you have for us on that vein?
Yeah. I mean, I think the world is watching Putin's tactics and what happened to Alexei Navalny, a Russian dissident, right? Who was pretty much a whistleblower, who's been for years calling out the corruption with the Putin regime, how he's stolen the elections, the way he steals money. He even exposed the $1 billion palace, right, on the Black Sea, with billions of dollars Russian money being used. He was poisoned, right, on the airplane. People haven't seen the video. Watch him poisoned on the airplane. He barely survives in Germany. He stays there for about a year or so and courageously decides to return to his motherland to expose more, knowing the consequence would probably be his death. He falsely is incarcerated on trumped up charges, typical by the Putin regime. And now this week, he dies mysteriously. He dies in Siberia in one of these penal colonies, hellhole that he was in, right? and now the Russian government will not release the body to his mother or his wife. And the wife says she will continue the cause, she will continue the fight, and they will continue to expose him. Funny that Trump said he compared himself a little bit to Navalny, that he thinks he's being persecuted also here. But he said he'd probably been better off he stayed in Germany or somewhere else. But like you and I said, Bill, if the KGB or whatever they are now wants to come and get you, they're finding ways to get you, right?
Putin is treacherous. He's been having enemies assassinated all over the world for many, many years. The world knows what he's all about. I mean, there's so many dictators, tyrants, and horrible people running these countries, and he's just one of them. And I
Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un. I mean, we got a handful just doesn't end. And they also just killed another guy. He was a defector, a Russian pilot who defected to Ukraine and just also recently was killed. So Putin's on a tear here. He's going after a lot of different people, and they're assassins and killing in. And remember the guy from Wagner, he took care of him also last year, right? Shot down his plane, right? He came this close of pushing. Well, Putin did leave the Kremlin. They were this close taking over. That was a big mistake.
I don't know why he stopped and believed that he wouldn't be killed. They even flew the airplane. His own plane was shot down, and they killed him.
Kill him and other people in the Wagner security group. They didn't care. They don't care. It shows that when we attempt something like that, you have to finish it. Because by going to Belarus or hiding wherever, he was done. It was only a matter of time. They said, "Oh yeah, we're going to let him." There's no protection. Belarus is also dirty with Putin.
Now we have this crime story in Fresno coming up in a second. But Mary, what do you think of corruption extends worldwide? I mean, it seems like the human nature to just take the shortcut and hurt other people in the process.
I think it's horrible.
Yes, it is.
So we have an arrest now in the Super Bowl parade shooting. Young kids. What do you know about that, Ignacio?
Yeah, they were kind of slow by information about that, and I don't even know what race were they? Do you know, Bill?
I'm not sure. I just saw there was young.
I didn't see that either. No pictures, no information. Is it gang related? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. They have guns. They're young. They're there. I have to say it has to be gang because kids that are not involved in that, are they going to be shooting each other over a beef? I mean, I'm not sure. I don't have all the information. I'm not sure what happened there.
I heard something like there was some minor argument that escalated, and it's somebody. One of them said supposedly, "Oh, it was just over a stupid argument." Well, people are dead. One of the mothers of the shooter had the nerve to set up a crowdfunding for him. Never mind any condolences for the victims or any crowdfunding for them or their families.
That's awful.
This just shows you how these kids are raised and the type of parents they have. That it's all about them when their son turned out to be this horrific person. For whatever reasons, allegedly is the shooter of, during this parade. So an event that
victim, one of the ladies that was murdered. She was a very popular DJ in that area in Kansas City, and it was tragic. And she was a mother of two. Very sad. Now their children are motherless.
She needs to have a crowdfunding, and if there's not one,
she needs one. Absolutely.
If somebody has a legitimate one out there, we could put that link in the description. We'll help her. But we're not helping these guys at all.
I think over 30 people injured, Bill. 30, right? And some of them seriously. They're not going to be the same. Even though you're alive, someone might be disabled, right? So you can't maybe walk again. That's your life has been changed forever because of a small petty disagreement and shots are being fired. I don't know. And you know what's disgusting, Bill? That a lot of Democrats were saying that the blood's on the Republicans' hands. Why? Why are they saying that? Because these are kids that shouldn't even have the guns. Blame maybe the parents for not being actively involved. Put the blame where it belongs. Law-abiding citizens deserve to be protected. The police were there. People responded. Shame on the parents for not being there and making sure the kids don't have the weapons. Maybe the parents will be charged in this.
Then they should be. I am beyond the point of scratching my head of how it's clear the Democrat policies are causing these disasters all over this country. Mm-hmm. The migrant crime wave, attacking police, no consequences whatsoever. And it's clear the Democrat policies vigorously enacted under Biden and him reversing all of the effective policies that were put into place by Trump. And I think that was spiteful because Trump did reverse some of the Obama policies when he got it. So I think
tit for tat. Yeah.
Right. But meanwhile, people are dying. There's young children, crossing with their family members, drowning in the river. There's border patrol agents that are committing suicide because, this has been reported. I'm not trying to get my YouTube channel shut down, but this has been reported that there's been border patrol that have taken their own lives because they're so distraught over what they're seeing.
Overwhelmed.
They're not being allowed to enforce the laws.
And how about some of these cities now that they're giving these guys these cards, debit cards, right? It's ridiculous. Well, our own citizens are suffering, and they're not getting all this kind of treatment, right? It's just not right.
And I'm telling you what, I'm going to probably find this clip and add this to the show. There's a lady who was at, I believe, a city hall meeting in Chicago. Now, Chicago is known as, out of control, liberal, ultra high gang and violent crime going on there. Essentially no consequences. The mayor has numerous issues of his own. So there was a meeting, and this black woman, she was very articulate. And then the hood came out of her. She started yelling at this guy during the meeting. And it was one of the biggest, most wonderful tirades I've ever seen. She was respectful to a point, but she was very, very, boisterous and assertive. And I'm going to paraphrase, and I'm going to put the clip up. But she said essentially, we're watching you, and you're letting all these illegal migrants into our city. They don't belong to be here. They don't deserve to be here. And you're not helping our citizens and the black community of this town. And we're watching and we're paying attention. We're not stupid as you think we are. And just because you're, and she was really talking about her race, right? You're doing nothing for the black people here. You're helping all these illegals. They're destroying the city. They're stealing. They're killing everybody. And you know what? Us black folk are getting ready to handle our business because that's what we do.
That's going to be a big problem for Democrat Party, man. They're splitting apart in so many different ways. That's one. Israel is a big one. How many Jewish Americans are leaving Democrat Party because they're sick of their taking the sides with the Hamas and the Palestinians, right? They're saying it's a terrorist group. And Israel has the one. I mean, they have their own state trying to protect themselves. They were almost annihilated from the face of the earth out of Europe with the Nazis, right? With death camps, have a little land right there, and they're at war, unfortunately, with Hamas and other terrorist groups, Hezbollah and everything else. And people see them as oppressors, the woke mentality, right?
They believe the propaganda instead of the truth and the history of what's been going on over there. I want to roll into this corruption Fresno story because this is really timely because we have one of the most controversial figures on planet Earth running for mayor yet again.
Oh yes, Jerry Dyer.
We're going to get into Fresno. So Mary's got a lot to say about that. Her stepfather, Larry Revis, is alleged to have been murdered out there behind all this corruption and thefts and corrupt
I'm sorry to hear that, Mary.
Shenanigans. So she built a racketeering case out there and a prosecutable case. So we're going to get into that. And I guess the best way to start it is, Mary, if you want to give us a little bit of the history, and then I know Ignacio has done some research and I have some research. Give us a little history of the corruption and things that you've uncovered out there and what you personally experienced.
Okay. Well, my personal experience is I grew up in Fresno, and I was in private school until about the 6th grade when a kid that was new to the school brought a shotgun to the school and was showing it off to me and a few of the other girls in our class. I went home and told my father, and he had it out with the school, saying, hey, this is why we have her in private school, to try and keep her away from crime and danger and things like this. So my parents made the decision, which I believe is the right decision, to take me out of school and have me homeschooled through the city of Fresno because my parents aren't teachers. So it was almost like independent study. But rather than stay at home all the time, I was pretty much out and about with my dad at his different offices. He was from New York, and then he moved to California. He was in the Vietnam War as a cryptographer. After he was done with his service, he enrolled in Hastings College of Law, studied law, got a degree, decided not to pass the bar and become a lawyer, decided instead to be more of a legal researcher and a strategist of sorts, whilst owning a lot of businesses. So he had a lot of commercial real estate, which included business interests in various law offices. And my godfather late godfather. His name was Mark Stefano.
Mm.
He was originally from Minnesota, and he had went to law school. He was a criminal defense attorney. He was also a politician in Fresno. He was a two-time city councilman. He was mayor pro tem for a while. I think that was in the 70s. Remained a bit of a controversial figure. He was indicted twice on racketeering charges. He was acquitted in both cases. The first case, they had to do a change of venue to Oakland because reporters from the Fresno Bee kept leaking the sealed grand jury transcripts to the paper and publishing them. So it was compromising the integrity of his defense. And so I grew up around my father. He was an older father when I was born. So I grew up a lot around him and his friends that were pretty much Italians or sometimes Armenians, but in the legal community there in Fresno. So a lot of time spent just observing criminal court trials and just seeing how things work in Fresno. And my dad didn't mince words, and everything he told me has turned out to become true.
Fresno. Wow.
But I'm still very glad that he gave me the straightforward truth.
Right.
No,
So
I agree.
So the history of corruption there goes back a long time, and she doesn't just talk from an outside observer. Her family was kind of in the mix in the legal community, and mayor pro tem, and criminal defense lawyer. And so she comes with a wealth of knowledge. And again, she's a certified fraud examiner, so she went into these fields and is very, very skilled at conducting civilian investigations into things and people and crimes. So this is not somebody who's just a beautiful face. She's somebody who's extremely, extremely competent, highly competent.
Plus grew up there and knows a lot of the people there too.
I know that town like the back of my hand, and that's why they don't want me in that town anymore since I grew up to be a forensic accountant. And I was always low profile because I'm an only child. So since I didn't go to junior high or high school with the other kids, I didn't have, a big circle of friends or anyone that kept up with me. So years later, as an adult visiting Fresno from the Bay Area where I'd worked a lot, no one really gave me any attention. So
a lot of things over the last few years have been prominent in the media about Fresno. If you Google Fresno, everybody uses Google. So Google Fresno or use AI.
Sure. That's what I do.
Ask, what is the most corrupt city in the United States? Fresno, multiple years running, including the last 2 in a row, has come back the most corrupt city in the United States. It is run by a guy, the mayor, by name of
Jerry Dyer.
Where's he?
That's him.
Jerry Dyer.
There goes Jerry Dyer right there. This guy was chief of police, was accused of murdering his lieutenant while he was chief. Not convicted of that. He became mayor. There's tons of allegations swirling around this man.
I can add a little bit to that too, Bill, since I did a little research of that part there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2004, I was reading, like I said, I didn't know much about this, so I did a little research and I Googled it and I saw some of the stories, especially from let's say victim. It's ruled a suicide, but a lot of people are suspicious there could have been foul play involved, right? This could have been a homicide because of the allegations against, I guess there's some bad blood. The lieutenant, his name was Jose Morales. He was there for about 30 years on the force, Fresno Police Department. And I guess he felt he was unjustly fired. Now, a little background on this police department. For years, I guess the Hispanics and Mexicans and the Anglos have been always going to war, right? Been very divided. It seems like a very divided city between the Hispanics, the blacks also, but lesser, and also the Anglos that are going on there. And that's been going on. And even allegedly, I was reading about the history of Fresno, that the Ku Klux Klan even moved in there because there were Southerners that moved eventually to California at a certain time and brought that culture with them also. So you had a little bit of the Klan, the white supremacists. You had guys who were other different groups in there. You have the bikers, gangs. So it's such an eclectic, strange city. I was really looking into it. I said, man, I think I said before, I was at ATF working still cases. That would be a town I'd like to work in. But you got to have the good prosecutors because nothing's worse when you're making it and they're as corrupt or problematic as the guys you're dealing with. That's a big problem. So going back to poor Jose Morales here.
Let me ask you a quick question before you dive a little bit more to a Morales killing or death.
Or death. We'll say death. I'll say
if
that.
you wrote the book ATF Undercover, so my co-host from my audience in Fresno who's going to be watching this is almost a 30-year highly acclaimed undercover agent with ATF in South Florida and Washington field office. Some of the highest profile cases he's worked on, they're detailed in his book ATF Undercover. He's written approximately 80 books so far since he retired just over a year ago. He's going to be the voice on Gangland Chronicles
Doing a few shows. Thank
on
you.
History Channel, and then we're doing together. We're going to be doing some shows on Question Everything Network, QE. So
and writing screenplays too. I've
and
gotten the screen. I've got. Like I said, get the software, Bill. I
Yep.
think you're also very creative. Final Draft. I'm not plugging it, but I'll be telling you, it just makes the formatting so easy.
Yep.
It's to write a screenplay, it's so much formatting. I didn't realize that. It does it automatically. I've written already four scripts. So that's one of many. Broken Crowns, I wrote it, and I've the TV pilot, and I've written 4 other ones. And so I'm still writing more books. I'm writing more screenplays. I like the dialogue. So those who like to write too, I suggest doing that too. It's kind of cool and it's interesting, and you never know. You get connected. It just makes it. So it was an investment of maybe $125. I got it for a little bit of deal. I suggest everybody, if that's something you're interested in, it makes it writing a lot easier. That's just my opinion. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I went there to let my audience know there's going to be a new California audience, and Fresno is going to be picking up on this big time, including some of the individuals we may be talking about, even in just a peripheral way. My co-host Ignacio was an undercover agent for many, many years, and if he's analyzing a case, he knows what he's saying, he knows what he's talking about. We're willing to have both sides of the story on the show. The detective that was dead, his wife Yolanda is doing something to expose, but they're welcome.
Very interesting what she says. Very interesting.
The mayor is welcome to be on the show. So I say all that to say this, and I want to ask you this. If you know this town is so highly corrupted, and gang members and all these organized crime elements have allegedly been reported to have penetrated the sheriff's office and the police departments out there in a major way, how would you feel knowing, like, say you're on an ATF task force and you're supposed to be working with the locals?
It's difficult.
How do you know they're not revealing your home address? They're revealing your who your informant.
It's hard to work with that kind of corruption. You have to go from the outside, not work with them actually, right? Yeah. And sometimes you do that. You got your own informant, you got your own crew, you got your own guys working with you, right, from your office, and you got to keep it close to the vest, right? Yeah, and you don't tell them what's going on, because we have had issues like that. Yes, of course. I mean, Florida has small municipalities. Every place you're going to encounter places where you say, I'm not sure what's going on here. We're going to do our thing. And then when it's time for the roundup takedown, we'll tell them just when we're about to hit, hey, by the way, we're doing this here in your backyard. And not tell them the information, who's it, just we're going to be there.
This way they can't tip people off to flee, like happened. Whitey Bulger got tipped off in Boston because they were working with allegedly a corrupt FBI agent who tipped them off to flee.
I found it interesting. She has a website, Yolanda Morales does, and detailing all this, what happened, what she thinks, her son, her daughter, and what they found problematic with the investigation. So that's her. That's Jose Morales, 30 years on the force there. She also was a police officer, by the way, Yolanda, narcotics unit, and she claims she was wrongly mistreated. Right, it's her allegations there, that she was kicked off the unit. Also, they found different things and issues, but a couple of things that she found wrong was they filed a lawsuit, and I guess it was dismissed, and there was other issues involved there. But like the person that allegedly recovered the body. Give a little background about him, Morales. I guess he allegedly they said he was having an affair with a subordinate. I don't know if that's true or not. And that Dyer himself, allegedly he was involved, I guess, having alleged sex with minors himself, right? But he fires him after 30 years. And I guess after talking with his son or whatever, he decides to go to his house, try to confront him about what's going on here. And I guess she says, Yolanda, that, hey, he's gonna, if you fire me, I'm gonna go and be like almost like a whistleblower to the media, expose everything else. Well, I guess his body's found later in a ditch, right? Well, it's a alleged self-inflicted wound to the chest. Now, according to her website, she talks to the coroner, and the coroner says after 30 years, he's never seen anybody, a male, commit suicide at shooting himself in the chest, but rather shoot himself in the head. So he thought that was odd. There was no gun residue found on his hands, right? I guess the weapon that was used, they don't think it was his. I mean, there's a lot of things that's very suspicious, and there was kind of a cover up, allegedly. So that's what's out there. I know there's a lot of people can read. Maybe you guys can also did your research. What else you found out about it? But that was a problem. But that was in 2004. So he thrives, right? He thrived for a long time, and now he's the mayor going for a second term. Jerry Dyer, a very controversial situation there in Fresno. So, and I know, Mary, you got a lot of story. And I also mentioned the elbow room. Though you said, Bill, that's right across from the police department, right?
That's right near the federal buildings and all that. FBI and all that. And Mary and a friend of ours who's incarcerated wrongfully out in California, David Michael Reinhardt, have tried repeatedly to get police reports or meet with FBI and ATF. And, I can't say everything publicly because you never know. There still might be a big racketeering case getting ready to go down. But, so it was very, very hard in that town to make traditional police reports.
You can't do it. If you are reporting on people that are involved in any aspect of what I just will call generally the racket, or are connected to law enforcement, they won't take your report. My mom and I had been trying for several years, and we have all of this on video. Bill's seen it. He's been to the downtown Fresno Police Department headquarters. He's seen how the doors are locked. I mean, it's a huge place. But even pre-COVID, my mom and I would go, they'd lock the door. It's, what's the harm in talking to me? How bad am I really? So we couldn't, we were in Dave's situation where he was living out of state and trying for years to get a courtesy police report filed by either the Fresno Police Department or the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, because he had already, filed a complaint with the FBI in Portland, Oregon, concerning the theft of his inheritance by his adopted parents and a corrupt former elected DA in Fresno and another attorney, a civil law attorney.
Now we have to say allegedly corrupt. Now this guy is Dale Blickenstaff. Dale Blickenstaff has been elected state attorney there for
elected DA for one term. He didn't run for a second term.
And then criminal defense attorney who, when he stepped in to defend Mike Sherinian in a racketeering case, the front man for the elbow room,
right.
That case suddenly went away. So
he's Armenian, right, Bill? Armenian?
Yeah. Sherinian, yeah.
Sherinian, and we're not alleging any corruption on his part, but we are saying he was charged with racketeering in a major operation, and was cleared of that. Now is a huge donor to the police and buying body cameras. So we tried to get an interview with him. Him and his people aren't talking. His wife was working at Stiefel, his wife was trying to bamboozle and terrorize Mary and her mother, out of things that they're entitled to. So when we went down there, we couldn't get anybody to listen. And she, because I guess they knew she was building this racketeering case, was persona non grata for filing police reports. We have video of her house of multiple men with guns trying to get in her house.
Oh my goodness.
To this day, we have the videos. Another time they tried to abduct her. They evidently employed local black gang members to try to drag her into a van, and they thought they had her, but she's trained in martial arts and weapons and all that. So she was able to fight her way free, but not before they said who sent them. So that's how dumb these guys are. They told her who sent them to get her. So
who sent them, Mary?
Bill Coleman, an attorney that was in Fresno for a long time, who I had never heard of. Actually, he was not anyone notable. It's like a sleeper cell insurgent. I never heard of this guy from my dad, his friends, anyone in the legal community. He kind of operates in the background. Now, I've tried to meet with him at his office. Fresno Bar Association hosted an anniversary party at his office. I emailed the office and RSVP, was told okay. So I showed up, and I have all that on video. And it was all very creepy, but I'm used to Fresno. Everything is very divided.
This guy, William Coleman, in fairness to him, in fairness to this attorney, in fairness, not that he's ever treated anybody fairly, he's never been convicted of any of this stuff. So these are all allegations. This is public knowledge. This is knowledge widespread in Fresno, California. He's had a paralegal. I believe she killed herself. Or
I don't believe she killed
she
herself.
turned up not living anymore when she tried to go against him and sue him. Other people have turned up mysteriously, missing all of their assets. He signs himself onto people's cases, probate cases, never having been invited in, and claims that the person or the senior hired them, and here's their signature. And it comes in on cases, put cases, including Larry's case, into a probate that didn't even need to be in a probate, just so that they could extract all this money.
Wow.
Yeah, he manipulates the local probate court as a way to use the court as a venue to embezzle assets of the deceased.
Right. Again, these are allegations based upon alleged, based upon extensive investigations, other reporting, other comments and interviews with law enforcement and victims. And so one of these brokerage firms, I'll name it on the show, that it's alleged to be involved is Stiefel, and Stiefel and their what's he president? This guy Don Vincente. He's in charge of one of the hunt and gun clubs out there. What's it called?
Ducks Unlimited.
Ducks Unlimited. Now he's not been convicted of anything either, but there's a huge history going back many years of racketeering with other people affiliated with this attorney. On similar scams, which is big probate scams. A lot of the people from the probate courts, there was an attorney general's investigation, and there's other things going on, like I said, we can't get into, have already been sent to prison about, 10 years ago, something, 8 years ago?
It wasn't that long ago. It was actually the Attorney General's office prosecuted the Fresno County Public Administrator's office.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to handle estates of decedents with no family, things like that. The Fresno Public County Administrator's Office was a division under the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. It was run by Coroner Dave Haddon, who was weighed in on the Morales case. It was subsequently disbanded, and several people went to jail over that. I think that they're taking a lot of heat that probably some of these attorneys involved should have taken, but didn't. That's my opinion on that. Yeah.
So circling
small
back,
town like that. Yeah, it seems like a lot of pressure within like that in a small town.
Circling back to this attorney, William Coleman.
Yeah.
He just happens to be the attorney intimately involved with this Dave Reinhardt case, the guy who's innocent in California prison right now. Okay. He sent him a copy. This is tied up to the Maxwell fortune, which is worth tens of millions of dollars. It had to do with the land deal and the president back in the 1800s. Dave was set to inherit tens of millions of dollars. Him and his sister Marissa in San Francisco got everything because these people tricked this guy, David, back to Fresno after he ran away from all his corruption and death and murder after watching his father murder somebody when he was a child. Wow. He fled the family, but he came back for his inheritance because this attorney, William Coleman, sent him a copy of the trust agreement. And it's clearly, according to even experts that we've had examine this document, has been altered to now exclude David. You can see one of the pages has an extra line. Another one, the lines are too long. There's so many things. It's not the same font. They weren't prepared on the same device. These are juvenile, replicas.
Yeah. And you interviewed him, Bill. So you're going to be talking more in depth about this too on your show with him, right?
Right. And so about Dale Blankenstaff, former prosecutor there, who's defense lawyer, he's retired. I personally spoke to him. And I did so, reaching out on behalf of Dave. And despite his intricate involvement in all of Dave's life, including trying to, the adoption and all that, including early matters in David's life, I forget exactly which ones, he claimed no knowledge of who Dave Reinhardt was. I mean, we have documents with his name on it related to Dave Reinhardt and his involvement with his various cases and trying to get him declared, incompetent years ago so that he couldn't get his inheritance. So here's a guy who's probably in his 80s now in his retirement claiming, and he had a very articulate conversation otherwise. And I was like, how could you not remember this guy? It was probably
was he out of law practice for a while now, Bill?
No, he's still practicing.
He's still practicing in his 80s?
I think he's still admitted to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But so there's been a big swirl of controversy around him and his actions and William Coleman's actions concerning Dave Reinhardt.
And a lot of this is alleged between both parties. Just so exactly. Neither one of us has first-hand information. This is what they're alleging between both of them. And we're just saying what's being reported.
And a lot of this has been litigated in court by David and Michael Reinhardt, so it's public knowledge. It can be reported, and it's been reported, and we're reporting it again here. And a lot of it is a result of Mary's investigation. So when these people got involved with Mary's life, and her stepfather mysteriously passed away in the middle of a dispute with Stiefel over them not doing what they were supposed to do, Mary took a deep dive into all the players and said, wow, there's a whole pattern of racketeering going on here. And look what they did to this guy, Dave. So she reached out to Dave, and he filled in the whole backstory of this. And now she knows the whole front story.
There's a lot of corruption. I mean, it's sickening on so many different. And we didn't even talk about this other guy here. That's interesting. How about the deputy chief under Dyer, major drug trafficker, Keith Foster, right? That happened a few years ago. And he's doing, I'm not sure how much time he got, at least 10, 15 years, I believe, unless he cooperated. You never know, he may get less time. A lot of people cooperate.
I think she said he ended up with 2, but this is, another police officer, high-ranking heroin trafficker.
Heroin, cocaine. I was reading a little bit about the heroin, cocaine involvement. And Dyer claims he had no idea what was going on, number 2 in command. Right. Wow, that's shocking. That's a black eye right there. When you're number 2 in command, it's drug trafficking. Let's serve and protect. Serve and protect. He's poisoning the community, hurting others, making addicts, destroying their lives, and he's getting paid by taxpayers. Disgraceful. You know what's humorous, and Mary's going to trip in a second here. I know you've done a lot of South Florida cases, and I have ties to South Florida as well. Yeah. How many times have we seen Hollywood PD, Key West PD? They go in, the feds go in, you guys went in. FBI goes in and arrests the whole department. Everybody's going down for racketeering track. So these people in Fresno don't even realize what they're looking at when the time comes. Yeah, they could. Does he deserve a second term, Mary, in your opinion?
In my opinion, no. But the problem, especially with this election, compared to his first election, he was running against a gentleman named Andrew Jans, who is a violent crimes prosecutor.
Okay.
Would have been a breath of fresh air, I feel.
Sure.
And who is not from Fresno originally, but has a lot of support throughout California, and was a more serious candidate. With the Keith Foster case, Jerry Dyer retires from the department, but Jerry Dyer started as a public information officer for the department. So his whole career, he's been very much the face of the Fresno Police Department. Probably if he hadn't been, then his former scandals and such wouldn't be such common knowledge, right? So Jerry Dyer, he testifies on the behalf of Foster's defense in the federal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
So he, walks away from that, retires from the police department. The mayor at the time was Republican Lee Brand. He had served 1 term, so people figured he was going to run for a second term.
Sure.
Well, he steps down so Jerry Dyer can come in as the.
Wow. I wonder what deal was worked out there, huh, Bill? That sounds shady.
Yeah, and so the corruption goes way back, and then so the alleged corruption. So we know of an author named Mark Arax. Mm-hmm. Mark Arax, I think he's an investigative journalist and an author. He wrote a book, and he had a sneak back into Fresno to solve his father's murder because nobody was doing a thing about it. He's a very well-known journalist. Hopefully, we'll have him on the show here soon. And his brother happens to be a judge in Fresno.
Ooh, that is interesting. That's very interesting there. Yeah. So we'll see. So we'll see if he wins. Is the election this year too, right? For Dyer?
Here, there's 2 people running against him. Although I wish them all the best, to me they seem like comparatively unserious candidates. They don't have any endorsements. Jerry Dyer has.
He'll run away with that one.
And all the financing, Andrew.
This guy Andrew Jans, who was the violent crimes prosecutor, happens to be a Democrat. Now, I make no secret of the fact that I'm a Republican. Yeah. Probably can't vote because I have felonies or whatever. I need to probably look into that. But I'm a huge Trump supporter. I don't necessarily agree with everything he does, but he's a highly effective president compared to what we're dealing with now. The guy who's
no, that's unbelievable.
So I say that to say this: one of Donald Trump's attorneys is Peter Tickton. and his tagline, the attorney you want between you and your problems. And so Peter and I have deep dives, conversations, and a few interviews about all this that's going on. Now, this guy Jans, I have a huge fan of my show, inmate to roommate of this show, named Brian Bobbitt. He owns
Okay.
he owns Asylum Signs. Asylum Signs.
Asylum signs. Hmm.
Yep, and
Easy
Fresno,
to say, huh?
and he's a major Democrat, supporter, helper. He's trying to help the homeless. Guy's got a heart of gold, and guess what? We get along just fine. Brian and I get along beautifully, and we believe different.
You agree to disagree, right?
Yep. And so same thing with my co-author. He's the editor of the National Enquirer, Gary Greenberg. If we don't talk politics, we're getting along great.
You're
But
fine.
it can get a little heated. But with Brian, I've never had an argument with him, and I say that to say this: he supported Jans for head prosecutor for mayor.
The mayoral campaign. The mayoral seat is supposed to
Fresno?
be citizen.
Yeah, he makes all the yard signs and all that. He makes backdrops, like something like we have here for my book signings. And so I don't want to give him a shout out of being a Democrat that I have nothing but respect for Brian.
That's cool.
And from everything I've heard about Jans, he's a good guy. But what in the world's going on with this guy who wants to be mayor again? We don't know. These are allegations that have been going around forever. I do know this: people, when they get arrogant and they get in power, you and I can both attest to the federal prisons being full of former mayors and chiefs of police. So I'm just
absolutely true. Interesting too. A little research I did on Dyer, and just everything came out there. Alleged that he was sleeping with underage girls, right? Under the age of, I think they were 16 or whatever age they mentioned they were involved in. He was married. Don't forget, he's also been married. He has his own family involved, but yet Morales gets fired for discretion similar to what he used to be doing. So that maybe go back to the divide between the Hispanics, the Mexicans, and the Anglos that was going on there. This is like a very beef. I think they've only had one person, non-Anglo, be the chief, and he didn't last long. I think it was less than 2 years. He was African American, and he only lasted 2 years, and that something went bad on that one too. So
the new chief, Paco Balderrama of the Fresno Police Department, he's
now,
yeah,
he's Hispanic now, yeah. So, but what I'm reading about him, he's saying he has some allegations. He made some strong allegations too. He made some strong statements. I guess Dyer still runs the department still. He's the mayor and still runs, allegedly. Everything still goes through Dyer.
Correct.
That's what's out there. I'm just reporting what's out there.
We've heard stories from credible people, including one sitting next to me, that the best way to be protected in Fresno, California, is have your picture taken with Jerry Dyer and put it in your phone.
And I tried, because they wouldn't take any reports from me and all of this. So I thought, what am I supposed to do here? We have all this these home security cameras, things like that. We have a problem with people ripping them down.
Sure.
And it's no one from our neighborhood, because they know, for example, if their car gets stolen or something like that, they can rely on me and I'll give them the video footage. I'm from an older neighborhood, but everyone around there knows each other. So they know I'm not spying on anyone or doing any stupid stuff. Whatever their business is or isn't is not my business.
Interestingly, when she built the racketeering case against a lot of these players that we've mentioned, she did go a little bit public with it, and so, and then plus in her court filings to deal with the funds that were supposed to be going to her mother that were tied up with Stiefel for no reason whatsoever, and looking into the murder of her stepfather, all of a sudden police, not just police, but other people with guns by themselves, people that were concealing with an umbrella on a 100-degree day, a black umbrella concealing their face from the camera, and a gun in their back waistband, trying to get in their door on camera. That's Another occasion, we have the police trying to get in, literally knocking. There's no exigent circumstances. There's no warrant. She doesn't want to answer it because she's terrified that at that time that the police were going to try to kill her. The one officer is literally reaching up to the camera that's covering the door, that when they notice the cameras, and he turns the angle of the camera. Now, I've looked into this, and I've spoke to others in law enforcement and attorneys. That alone is illegal without a warrant. Now, you were an agent. Were you allowed to manipulate people's cameras without a warrant when you went to?
No, I didn't do that.
You couldn't reach up and turn them off because you were pissed off that they were getting you.
That sounds like people who are doing things and maybe they don't want you to see what they're up to. So interesting. Now, I know we got a few minutes here, Mary. What do you want to say about this? How the death of your stepfather, how things happen, what you think about stuff like that?
Oh, I feel that his death was not suspicious, that it was a money-motivated homicide, that the people involved with the Stiefel brokerage, including Don Vincente, his assistant Christine Sherinian, wife of Mike Sherinian, wanted to silence my stepfather because they were getting nervous that he was going to litigate against them for not transferring his assets into a joint tenancy account with my mother, as he instructed in person and in writing at their office August 10th, 2016. He died under very suspicious circumstances November 23rd, 2016.
How did he die?
He was getting physical therapy at an inpatient place. He was supposed to be there for about a week, and he didn't have any major health problems. He had osteoarthritis, but he didn't have a heart problem or cancer or anything wrong with him. I know his medical history very well. We all have the same doctors. And we just got a phone call on Thanksgiving night after we had visited him, and he was fine when we left. Somebody on the phone from a blocked number cruelly tells my mother, "Your husband's dead, come and get him." She went into a panic and hysterics, understandably, collapsed. I picked up the phone. I demanded to know who's calling me. No name, nothing, same message, click. So that's how we were informed about this and things that...
What did the autopsy say? What did the coroner say?
Oh, we'll see. Now, part of my family has historically always been in the funeral business, so I know quite a bit about funerals, coroners, autopsy reports, and the like.
Sure.
We told the facility where my stepfather was at to have him sent to the coroner for an autopsy.
Right.
He wasn't. So Dave Haddon from the coroner's office never got to weigh in. There's numerous errors on the death certificate, including declaring that my stepfather was born in Oklahoma. That's not true. He was born in Fresno. And the cause of death listed on the death certificate is cardiac arrest. Well, how can you make the determination it was cardiac arrest without an autopsy?
And the rehabilitation center never even admitted him. They never put him on their official paperwork, and they denied that he was even there, even though they have video of them visiting with him the day before and photograph stills of him under the covers a few hours later when they went back and were notified that he passed away.
We could tell no efforts were made to resuscitate him at all. Based on the condition of his body, I believe probably someone working there, or maybe someone he knew, injected him with something that stopped his heart.
He simply went to Stiefel to try to have his wife of many years, Mary's mother, added to the account, and they drug their feet and drug their feet and drug their feet. And he's a very trusting, hardworking guy. And he believed that, this was normal. Everybody else said it should have taken, an hour?
Well, he knew after it took longer than 2 weeks that there was a problem because he, as a, non-stockbroker, was able to transfer assets from his parents' estate to himself as the sole beneficiary by himself by taking his father to various banks to get paperwork medallionized, sending the paperwork back to the brokerage. It took him 2 weeks. So when Don Vincente and Stiefel are supposed to be so much more efficient, which were kind of foisted on him by his CPA at the time, they weren't getting it done quickly. He started to have some concerns, which makes sense. It's a lot of money. Why isn't it getting done? They're dragging their feet. They're making excuses. This is a very simple request to put this into a joint tenancy account.
Right.
And
there exists a letter that was found after Larry's passing where he was finally putting a little bit of pressure on them, saying, "Hey, I was trusting you. This seems highly suspicious."
And that was sent to Stiefel on November 20th. He had received correspondence from Christine Sherinian saying, "We need your signatures all over again. Your signatures are stale dated. Stall.
Right.
So he wrote them a letter while he was in the physical therapy place. He's not very aggressive or anything, but he's asking, what the hell happened to customer service?
Right.
Why isn't any of this getting done? So that letter would have been received maybe 2 days after by Stiefel, and then boom, he's dead.
Christine Sherinian married to Mike Sherinian, and she has zero training or experience to work in the brokerage of any kind, let alone to be yelling at Mary and her mother when they're grieving and all that.
Did you ever talk to the FBI about this, Mary, to get this looked into?
I think I've tried, but I'm not quite sure the best way to present it because there's so much corruption and racketeering.
Yeah, you need outsiders to come in for sure.
With Fresno PD, the only time we were able to file a report online was during COVID. And so we had filed a report, and then the gentleman who is supposed to be helping senior victims of crime, with the Fresno Police Department, called my mother and berated her or something hellish, which we have all the audio of. And, you know, she's a crime victim who was looking for help and answers. But he was terrorizing her as though she's somehow manipulating law enforcement to do her bidding.
And then the same attorney on Dave Reinhardt's case, William Coleman, out of the blue, submits that he's representing her mother and takes over the case, never having been retained, never having, been hired or anything. He just submits a document saying he's representing Mary's mom.
Wow.
Puts it into an unnecessary probate, right?
Mhm.
When in that state, everything should have went directly to Mary's mother. Instead, this guy comes in, not invited, and puts it into probate, which complicated
Strange.
things.
Yeah, very strange. A lot of strange circumstances here. A lot of things, a lot more digging. And your father, your stepfather, passed away when? When did this happen? What year?
2016.
2016. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave's rotting in prison. Other people are no longer with us, and the same crew of people are.
Circle. Yeah.
It's a circle. Yep. And so the answer to, as you know, going public, you can only say so much. Have you gone to the FBI? Let's just leave it at this. We're hopeful that things are going to take their proper course and people are going to be held accountable legally.
That's what you want. You want people held accountable, and this is being looked into. A lot of this stuff. Hasn't been. No one's been convicted, right, Bill?
That's right.
It's been alleged and looked into, but it's strong evidence, and we'll see. Just like with Dyer, just like with people who have been convicted. This guy Foster, he was number 2 in command. Yep. That's shameful behavior. He was a major drug trafficker.
Well, this whole matter with the bogus probate that William Coleman put into the court there was handled by who? An Armenian judge who has plenty of question marks of her own. She had multiple ex parte meetings with the other side because the stepsisters stepped in that were strange, that weren't supposed to get anything. They step in with a firm that's got some questionable ties, and she's doing one adverse ruling after another against Mary's mom after ex parte hearings.
Yeah, so lots of stuff going on there,
out there. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, they all belong in federal prison, and let's hope that that's where they end up. Again, it's been alleged. This has been spelled out.
Alleged, yeah. It's a due process, and people are innocent until proven guilty. That's correct.
Exactly.
Just to make sure everybody's on the same page. But we do know is guilty. Quite a few people in Fresno who have been convicted, and which is pretty shocking. But going back a little bit to Morales, hopefully there can be a better investigation. Outside agencies involved. I know maybe the AG's office can get a second look at this and give some justice to make sure this is what really happened and it wasn't some sort of cover up. Because like the coroner said, in 30 years, he has never seen a male commit suicide by shooting himself in the chest. It's normally in the temple, right? In the head.
Yep. So for my audience, for YouTube, these are the opinions of our guests. These are incidents that have been not only reported in the news widely, but they've also been litigated in court, various forms. Some are still pending. Some are resolved, in a negative way because of what we believe is widespread corruption. We have videos and tons and tons of evidence to support what we're saying and tons of news reporting. So I want to thank Mary more than anything. We're going to circle back and do about a 3-part series on Fresno and corruption.
I think there's a lot to discuss in Fresno. The history of corruption is enormous. From era of prohibition, drug trafficking, there's so much in gambling, prostitution. I was noticing that bribery schemes were enormous.
Yep. And so Yolanda is the surviving
Morales. Yeah.
Morales is more than welcome to come on the show. Look us up. My information's on the screen. So is Mayor Dyer. We give you a fair chance to tell your side of the story like anybody else. I do investigative journalism now. We hope the allegations are untrue. It kind of sucks to be accused of things you didn't do. I've been in that position, but I did a lot of dumb things that ended me up in trouble. But so we hope this isn't true. But you're more than welcome to come on. You're running for mayor. Put your best foot forward. Come on my show.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yep. We got a lot of stuff going on, Bill. Shows are doing well. Our books are doing well, right? Yep. You can find them in Amazon, Audible, between the ATF Undercover, the most dangerous crime syndics of our time. Just look up our names in Amazon, type it in, a lot of stuff there. You can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn. You're also on TikTok, right, Bill? Yeah, and I'm also, you find me in Goodreads too. I put a lot of cool things on Goodreads. If you like going to Goodreads, you can see a lot of my books there too. I'm on a lot of different platforms, which I kind of like, which is pretty cool.
Right.
And Mary, you got stuff going on too, right?
If anyone's looking for some forensic accounting services,
TMZ. But don't you do TMZ on occasion here and
sometimes,
there?
yeah,
Yeah, I
sometimes
remember seeing you a couple. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
never know what those topics are going to be.
Yeah, it's always fun.
TMZ Live. Yep, I did an interview. Mary now is a regular contributor. She, it's supposed to be like once a month, but sometimes it's every few months. She's on there, and
maybe she can interview us this time for TMZ, and we can talk about some different things that we have going on. How about that?
That'd be fun.
she can do that. Now, if you're watching from Fresno, I have a lot of California fans and supporters. So Juliet Ramos, Broken Girl on Chain. She was another one victim of police brutality and corruption out there. What's the county?
She's in, I think, Stanislaus.
Stanislaus County. So we have other very strong ties to California, but we're looking for the Fresno audience to comment in on this show and tell us what kind of questions you'd like to ask. If you have any suggested guests from Fresno specifically on both sides of the coin, if you're a crime victim advocate or somebody trying to expose corruption, or if you have some insights, you can contact us privately and or law enforcement to let your concerns be known.
Corruption.
I would say be careful reporting out there though. But that's it. We thank you for joining us. Another episode.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Ignacio.
Catch us on Steal a Spotlight Television and William Steele True Crime on all platforms. And stay tuned for season 2 of Inmate to Roommate on A&E Network. Tens of millions of fans there. I want to make them all subscribers here. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.